Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and we got a great show for you today because a third of the Major League Baseball season is in the books. If you can believe it already, we got 2/3 left, but it's an important time to take a pause and kind of take the temperature. Where are we right now in the MLB season? But more importantly, where are we with our MLB Futures? So I wanted to bring in one of my absolute favorite people to talk to about wagering and certainly about baseball as well. Yes, his name is also Joe. That doesn't hurt either. You might know him from WagerTalk, from SiriusXM Radio Channel 204, and of course, all the stuff he does at SportsGrid, because he's on everything, everywhere, all the time. He's the one, the only Joe Raineri. Joe, welcome to the program, my friend. How are you?
Joe, I love it because it covers the whole room right now. It's fantastic. Joe P, it is a pleasure to be back with you, my friend. You look fantastic. And congratulations on the show, man. Very nice.
Look at us, still kicking around after all this time. A year ago, we were laughing before the show because a year ago at this time, Joe and I were working together during the pandemic, and part of a network that was running by the seat of its pants it was flying, I guess you could say. Well, it was all new to everybody, and here we are a year later, and all of this technological advancements, doing shows remotely and all these things, it's like second nature now, and it's just so funny the difference a year makes, man. And I know for you, with your New York Yankees, I know it's been a tough road here in the month of May, but May's over. We're on to June. In the words of Bill Belichick, we're on to Cincinnati, so I won't dive too much. I don't want to hit any sore points with you. But let's start, if we may, with the National League MVP race, because I think this is a fascinating one. And once again, if you go to bettingpros.com, you can see the consensus of all the different books, where you can get which bet, which wager. And what we do here is we give you the consensus number, basically what the average is across the board. So right now, Ronald Acuna is plus 200 on consensus Betting Pros. Then you got Fernando Tatis Jr., who may or may not go on the IL with this little bit of a tightness in his side. I tell you what, Joe, I hate that word, oblique. I don't want anybody to say it to me ever. As soon as I hear it, I know I'm not going to see that player for 6 to 8 weeks. Let's hope for the best, but he's plus 300. Then you have Jacob deGrom, who just came back from injury at plus 1,300. Nolan Arenado's at 1,300, and Juan Soto's at 17. Juan Soto's going to heat up. That number is going to probably decrease for him in terms of odds. But right now, is it a two-horse race, or can you really start to make a case for deGrom? Because his number's gone up exponentially after the injury, but he's doing something that nobody else is doing. When he takes that mound, Joe, he's going out there, he's throwing 100 miles an hour, 30 pitches in a row, and it's nuts. And I'm exaggerating, but slightly. So what's your take on NL MVP so far?
Listen, there's nothing not to like about Acuna, right? Is he 22, 23 years old? The numbers are astonishing. But unfortunately, he's on a team that is about as big an underperformer, certainly offensively, as the New York Yankees have been in many aspects of it. He too he was dealing with that injury back and forth, and I'm with you. When I hear that word oblique, I'm worried that I'm going to have 70% of what that player could be and should be, because it's certainly an injury that never goes away. And the only thing that prevents it or lets it go away is rest. And that's not good for anybody. And then when you got a guy who swings and his shoulder pops out, that's a different story. But to me, the focus is on deGrom. It's all deGrom. You can't watch Garrett Cole, and we'll talk about the big guns, right? So you got Garrett Cole up at the top of everyone's list, and you've got, Bueller. You've got some of these frontline top pitchers, and watching them on any given Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and you watch deGrom, you tell me it's just not different. Like you think it doesn't get any better than like Garrett Cole. You got $300 million. He's our number one. You watch deGrom. Watch the mannerisms of his teammates around him when he takes them out. What he just did to Arizona in his last start was ridiculous. I mean, he struck out 5 of the first 8 guys. 100 miles an hour, 101, 101. Oh, wait a minute.
And it's an
93
easy 100.
Slider.
That's the thing that's crazy to me, is that it's so easy looking. You see these guys with the max effort velocity, but not deGrom. It just looks so effortless. And this is why I love doing the shows once a month. We try to update everybody on this, because it's such a fluid thing. deGrom at one point was, I saw in some books somewhere around 4-1, 5-1 for this award. He has the injury, then it sets him back a little bit. Now you're some spots, again, 13-1, you're getting this. And look, I know Acuna's been consistent, and maybe that will get rewarded. Tatis overcoming the shoulder, overcoming COVID. If he, hopefully this injury doesn't keep him on the shelf very long. But I wonder if we're en route for a 30-30-30 season from Tatis, where 30 home runs, 30 steals, and 30 days on the IL. Nobody's ever done that. If he does that, I don't know how you don't give him the award. But
I agree.
I'm kind of with you that DeGrom is fascinating, and this is obviously the time, right? If you think DeGrom is back and being DeGrom again, 13-1 seems like the spot to get in, right?
Absolutely. I'm kind of upset that he didn't grab it ahead of time because, listen, this is the problem with guys like DeGrom, the truly elite of the elite, right? We tend to take them for granted, not only as fans, but certainly as bettors in many aspects, too, when we see them. And it's hard to take a step back and just see he's different. Everything about him is different. When he's pitching in a game, when he's on the mound, his teammates are different. The team he's playing has that. You see it, Joe. They have that certain look in their eye, like, I got to go up. I got to go and try and hit this. You don't get that. It's once in a generation kind. And because he's on the Mets and because they never score any runs for him, or at least that's the MO,
it's the truth. I'm a Mets fan. I can tell you.
Yeah, you take it for granted.
Yeah,
you don't appreciate it. Yep,
well, and speaking of getting in at the right time, now I got in on my shares of Shohei Ohtani at 6.5 to 1. That's where I got them at. Now, I had an inkling when it was up at 20 before the season. And I got to tell you, in the American League, even with that, I said, look, I got to see it a little bit more. But then I jumped in, and it was before Trout got hurt. And then when Trout got hurt, I knew that number, that was gone. You're never going to see that 6 again. In the American League, right now, the consensus number at Shohei Ohtani, again, before the season started, was around the 20s. Now it's plus 120. Vlad Guerrero Jr., who just looked like he's playing out of his mind right now, an incredible hot streak, he's at plus 275. Trout's fallen back to the pack with the rest of the guys. He's at plus 17. To me, this is that two-man race. And I posed this question this morning on the baseball show on Fantasy Pros, and I'm curious to hear your answer. Even if Vlad hits 30-something home runs this year, and Ohtani hits 30-something, Ohtani always has that trump card, which is, oh yeah, and I'm pitching too, by the way. How can anyone compete with that if Ohtani can take the ball about every fifth day and throw 120-something innings this year? Can anybody compete with that?
If I have to go look at film that is basically silent and black and white to see the last player in Major League Baseball that was hitting both pitching and playing the field, then you have something very special here. The problem is we know the injury history, right? How healthy can he be? One of the other big questions was, were they going to baby him? How much were they going to use him? Were they going to be extra careful with him? What was Madden going to do with him? So far, they've done a masterful job. The guy, his power numbers are ridiculous, home runs, but his pitching, too, when he's on the mound. When you get a guy on the mound pitching, and then they bring in a relief pitcher and they send you to right field, it's like shades of 12-year-old Little League again. Like, all right, great job, Joe. You're great now. Go play left field. Like, what? Like, what are we doing right now? That's what you have. The problem I have with it, Joe, is that, and I think there will continue to be value with him because he plays for the Angels. Right. And he's never going to be front page news there, being in the same town as the Dodgers. It's just not going to happen. So I don't think half this country even realizes how special what he's doing is because the Angels and the big markets pay no attention to him.
Oh, if this was happening in New York or Boston or Chicago, forget it. Forget it. Absolutely, it'd be a whole. There would be statues already built to him. 2 statues, one for the pitcher, one for the hitter. They would be all kinds of different things.
Unreal.
But it is an unreal thing. It's just baseball is hard. I know. We played the game. It is hard. He makes it look so easy, and it is insane right now. Now, in terms of the National League Cy Young, look, we all think Jacob deGrom. The fact that it's only minus 167, I think, is actually kind of ludicrous. The other guys out there, Corbin Burns and Woodruff, Jack Flaherty was at 18-1. Burns and Woodruff were in that 7 to 7.5 range. I really have a hard time looking for anybody, so I don't really want to waste anybody's time with long shots and stuff like that. Burns has been terrific. Bauer's been good too, but deGrom is just in a different universe. The American League, it feels like Garrett Cole right now. He's at minus 148. Then you got Shane Bieber at plus 400. You got Tyler Glasnow at 650. And then you got Lance Lynn at plus 14. And Carlos Rodano's had a brilliant season at plus 18. Now, awards are always media-driven. They're narratives, right? That's why the Ohtani narrative, especially with Trout going down, is such a good narrative. Is there another narrative to be built besides Garrett Cole right now in the American League? Because Glasnow and the Rays, it kind of feels like that could be one, and 650 is a fascinating spot to be in. That's the one that I've kind of got circled right now because he's kind of getting it done, and I don't think people are really noticing, but it feels like it's starting to build momentum. What are your thoughts on him, or is it just, again, Garrett Cole's to lose, basically?
It's always going to be Garrett Cole's to lose because he's a Yankee. So let's be realistic with that. And again, just a cut above. But the interesting part about Glasnow coming into the season was, how is he going to react being the number one? He was behind Snell. So he didn't have as much pressure there. Plus, you play at the Trop. It doesn't get any better for pitchers there than the Trop. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a hitter and have to play my games at the Trop in Tampa. It's a terrible ballpark, and certainly not one that's conducive to a whole lot of offense. So I think he's got that going for him. But who knew? When you're going up against the 2 and 3s, now you got to go up against the number 1s. What were we going to get from him? And the answer is pretty simple. I mean, he's been absolutely phenomenal. Carlos Rodon has been unbelievable to me, especially the backstory with this guy. Two shoulder surgeries. He had elbow. This guy was trying to get there. And just a year and a half ago or so, they were like, we don't know if he's going to be able to come back. We don't know what his career is going to be like. And what we're seeing from him this year is unbelievable. Dare I say, million times better than Giolito. And what we're seeing from him.
Yeah, Gio's picked it up a little bit. Yeah, Gio's picked it up a little bit recently. He had a bad stretch there. He had that bad day game in Boston, and then that spiraled to another start. Then he had an injury thing, and then there was like a rain game. He had like the worst run there, but that's all coming back to earth. And it's funny, as great as the Rodon story has been, he's probably still not going to win Comeback Player of the Year because of Trey Mancini. Like, that's the thing. Yes. You want to look for odds on that. I don't know why I haven't looked at them today, but I can't imagine they're not in the negative in terms of Trey Mancini.
I agree.
He's been brilliant.
And I don't want to go on a thing, but Gausman, too. Anybody see that coming from the Giants this year?
The whole Giants rotation. Him, Alex Wood, you got Logan Webb striking out 10 guys. It's been madness there. And good on Gausman. And you know what?
Yes.
Bad job on the Orioles, who continue to show you that they have no idea how to develop pitching for the last decade. It's been crazy. Ke'Bryan Hayes still leads everybody in terms of Rookie of the Year in consensus wagering, which I think is hilarious. Ian Anderson's at plus 600. Dylan Carlson's at plus 700. I kind of like those. I mean, Ian Anderson, that dude's just basically gone out there and just been great every single start for the most part. He's not going to give you 7-8 innings because of where he's at, and I don't know what he's going to look like come August and September. But right now, I think this 6-1 is actually one of the more intriguing wagers on this award futures kind of slate. And Hayes hasn't played all year. So I don't know. I mean, I know Carlson's a good player. He's a position player, but it kind of feels like Ian Anderson's to lose. What's your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. I think the kid has got a tremendous, and I mean an absolute tremendous future ahead of him. I think he's in the right organization at the right time. He's going to get, and I think this is going to be important too, as we get a little bit closer after the All-Star break. He's going to get a lot of national exposure too come that time because he's going to be pitching some meaningful games here when you get into August and September. They are going to need him, but there's nothing not to like. His metrics are fantastic. The numbers are really good. Had a little bit of a rough outing last time out, but he is a kid that if they can get it together, certainly offensively over there, he's going to be up there because really who else is there? I mean,
you don't really see a lot of National League rookies coming through that pipeline this year.
Nope.
Whereas in the American League, when you look over there, right now, you're still waiting on Wander Franco, who's a 10-1. Jared Kelenic came up. He's 10-1.
Yep.
Randy Arozarena is the clear favorite, plus 350 rather.
Yeah. Yep.
But we just had Alek Manoah come up last week, have his debut in Yankee Stadium.
Good point.
We'll see how he makes his second start and a third start and whatnot, how that goes. That boy's a hoss. I'm going to tell you right now. That, you know what?
I think the Jets signed him. I'm not sure. I think
he might be the right guard for the Jets in the offseason. It's very possible. I don't know.
Yes.
But what I do know is I think the American League is a little bit more fluid right now. The National League, I like Ian Anderson.
Right.
Arozarena's been there from day one. I can understand him being the favorite, but even so, that plus 350, that's a pretty good number on Arozarena if you don't want to wait for Wander Franco and Vidal Brujan and those guys to come up for the Rays. But do you think it's worth waiting on, or do you speculate now on those Rays, hoping to hit on a Wander Franco in the second half, just coming up and being dazzling?
It's we're going to find out. You bring up a good point there, though. I would tend to jump on that because of the nature of that award, too. And I don't, to me, the fact that we're even talking about 2 or 3 guys means there's really no clear cut, heads and tails above anything else here. But I do think we're just 2 months into the season. I do think Franco and others have a chance to make a really big push for this award, including Anderson there. I think there's going to be an opportunity to get a little votes as the season moves on. But I'm looking forward, tell you the truth, it's the next generation. I'm looking forward to seeing, even at the end of the year, forget the award, I can't wait to see who's left standing among these players at the end. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun, that American League East, too, because we got the Rays right now. Boom. Plus 150. The Yankees plus 160. This is to win the division. And the Red Sox sitting all the way back at plus 385, which is, and I understand why they're not getting respect. And I think it's because you look at that rotation, you worry, is it a paper tiger? The bullpen's been brilliant over the last couple weeks. The offense is there. The bottom of the lineup is still a little troubling, but the main guys have carried them. When you have JD and Rafael Devers and Xander Bogaerts being great, you can get by. Where do you want to put your money here, if at all? Because this is a tight race, and it seems like the Rays the last couple of years have kind of had the Yankees number, and they're able to... I said last year, and I know we did a lot of shows together, but I said going into last year, that season was built for the Rays because you knew nobody was going to be able to make big trades and bring in big salaries, and the Yankees weren't going to do that, and the Red Sox were rebuilding. So the Rays had a unique position to really be a playoff team, go to the World Series potentially, and I thought that this was just a perfect setup. Now this year, again, they're not going to be able to do that, but they can bring up these kids, and they can bring up these guys. The Yankees have had some injuries here. Stanton's been hurt. We know Luke Voit was back and then back on the IL. Corey Kluber's going to miss some time. Tyon, we don't know how long he's going to last. There's some issues here with the Yankees. Is it a good wager right now to get in on the Rays, or do you think the Red Sox are actually more fun considering you're getting a better odds there?
So I believe they're either third or fourth best in the American League in run differential. They were at plus 44, 45, somewhere along those lines heading into the week. And that they can flat out ball. Now, the starting pitching is what everyone is looking and saying, oh, now slow down, right? You got Eduardo got crushed a little bit here, Rodriguez. But the bullpen, look what that bullpen has done. Matt Barnes with 12 saves, Garrett Whit. I don't know anybody saw the bullpen as possibly one of the strengths of the Red Sox. The starting pitching, I think it's hit or miss, obviously, but with those bats, and the problem I have with Tampa is they're 2 different teams home and away. The way they win games on the road is not the way they win games at home. So I think from a consistency standpoint, and even though their record right now on the road has been absolutely phenomenal, I still think a dark horse here is the Red Sox. I don't want to count out Toronto just yet, but I think the Red Sox will, as long as they can grind away from the starting pitching, what they've been getting from that bullpen, and that lineup is good as anybody, I'll put them up against anybody, including the Astros this week.
Well, the interesting thing is the Blue Jays are sitting at plus 600. So if you really want to take the long shot there, Robbie Ray has been brilliant. All of a sudden, Robbie Ray doesn't walk anybody. I don't know what's happened there. Obviously, it's a mechanical fix, whatever it's
What's the name of that pitching coach?
I don't know, but we got...
Because that guy's he's a pitching whisperer. Whatever it is, what he's done to Robbie Ray is unbelievable.
And Hyunjin Ryu's been good since he came over there, too. I mean, he was good with the Dodgers. Everybody wanted to freak out when he went to the American League, and he's been very good. The trick is, what do you get after those 2 guys? Now, once again, if Alek Manoah can be that guy, I don't know if he can. Yes. But you add in a real legit third pitcher to that rotation, you get George Springer back healthy.
Yes.
If you want to speculate on the Blue Jays, this is the time, because This number can only shrink, Joe, as
Yes,
far as I'm
I agree.
concerned. This is
I
going to be a
agree.
really tight race here. And if you like the Jays and you believe in what they can do,
Yep.
and look, they're playing in Dunedin, they're playing in Buffalo, they have no
Yep.
home. It's a fascinating story. The Central, I think we all kind of feel like it's the White Sox to lose, so I don't want to waste people's time there with that. But I want to talk about the Astros and A's because they are deadlocked here. Minus 118 for the Astros, minus 106 on the A's. Is this even a smart wager? Because I look at this and I think all the pitching that the Astros have shown you this year, even despite injuries, and now they got Framber Valdez back, I think this is the Astros division to lose, personally. I don't even, as much as I think the A's are always there, and the A's always show up, at the same time, I think you have to acknowledge the Astros still have a very good core offensively, and in terms of the pitching rotation, they have more depth than a lot of other teams. They didn't send Javier to the bullpen now for a little while. That means he's going to be fresh in the second half if they need to call on him. So what's your thoughts on the West in the American League?
It's interesting because Houston, I trust Oakland's bullpen more than I trust Houston's bullpen. I think we can probably say at this particular point, looking at Pettit and Dykeman and Guerrero and what these guys have done for Oakland, I like their bullpen. Didn't start off great against Houston, by the way, but wouldn't that be a little foreshadowing of what we're going to anticipate here at the end of the season, where these two are going to be doing battle? The starting pitching, all right, I give the nod obviously to Houston. I think both teams they hit to contact. These aren't teams that are going to, these guys aren't going to walk a lot. These guys are going to put the ball in play, which seems to be what a lot of pitchers are preferring to do this year, is pitch to contact, because they don't seem too worried about barrels hitting the balls here these days for some reason there, Joe. It's interesting. So instead of strikeout, home run, or walk, pitchers seem to be saying, all right, go ahead, put the ball in play here, and let's see what happens.
Well, it's because of the shift. You put the ball in play. I got 12 guys in one spot where you hit
Don't have to strike out. Don't have to strike out. Just got to get you to swing at my pitch, which both of these teams do. I think huge run potential from both. I would give the nod to the A's right now just because Bassett. I mean, you look at the names here. Cole Irvin, Bassett, Manea. You go through, you're like, they're solid. Nothing's going to wow you, but I think both are very comparable offensively. I do like Oakland A. I like that bullpen a little bit more for Oakland. And what an interesting ballpark they're still playing in.
Well, good. Interesting is a nice word for hard. I've been there. I've seen a baseball game in Oakland. It is the absolute worst. It is the biggest dump. And I used to go to games all the time in the old Vet, which was also an epic dump. Not even close. This is the worst baseball place ever, and I hope they go play somewhere else someday in a better spot. Let's talk about some National League division winners. The Central just got real interesting with that Jack Flaherty injury because he is going to miss some time. After Flaherty in that rotation, I got concerns. They're at plus 130. The Brewers, who I was all in on, oh my God, the beginning of the year, I wanted nothing but Brewers all along. Then the Yelich back injury creeps up, and I'm jumping ship, and I said, well, I can't do that anymore. I'm out. They're plus 130. The Cubs had an epic month of May, somehow worked themselves into relevancy, and they are at plus 400. I got to say, the Flaherty injury has thrown a wrinkle here of epic proportions, and if St. Louis doesn't make a move for a Means or Matthew Boyd or somebody like that, they're in a little bit of trouble here right now because I don't know how much they can sustain with the guys they've got in that rotation. But the Brewers have a three that nobody else can match outside of probably the Dodgers in the National League, or maybe the Padres too, if ever Blake Snell can find himself again. But the Brewers have something special here with these three arms. What do you want to do here? Is this a stay away? Do you have a favorite here in the Central? What does this look like to you?
I think the Cardinals, and I think we talked about this ahead of time, I think the Cardinals are overrated to begin with. I think their offense is overrated. There was a lot of questions about Arenado when he came into the season, right? You know, the whole curse of, has he got that Colorado Rocky swing kind of thing where it works great in Colorado, but when he's out there, he has been good. But I don't trust Martinez. I mean, outside, you mentioned Flaherty, who was also, and I hate to break this to Cardinals fans, I mean, I had faded him against Bauer there because he's due for some regression here, guys.
Oh, yeah.
It's
6-0, it was going to come. Like, you knew it was
too many hard hit, too many hard hits, too many barrels on the ball, started to walk more guys than what we would like to see for a guy that's going to give up. He's a fly ball pitcher who's going to give up home runs. So it was coming, I think. They did an amazing job of winning and scoring runs for him when he did pitch thus far, but I think that was coming. And then after that, 85-year-old, Wainwright? Like, you got who can only pitch at home. You better only schedule Wainwright and Bush because he can't pitch anyplace else. So to me, you mentioned it. Only the big three that I will refer to, and I know you're talking about Woodruff and you're talking about Peralta and, of course, Burns, but talk to me about Suter, Devin Williams, and Hader. You give me a lead when I get into the sixth inning, guys. It's over. It is over. And yes, I think the Adams trade with Tampa a couple of weeks ago, fantastic for them too.
They need more offense. They did. They did not do enough this offseason to surround. And again, Trey Mancini was the guy I said at the beginning of the year. That should be your number one target. As soon as he shows he's healthy, go out there, overpay for him. You know, he can play first base, he can play the outfield, you can move him around if Yelich isn't good. You all of a sudden surround Yelich with a little bit more protection. I mean, what more do you want this guy to do? It's a very difficult spot there. I don't understand how, Vegas is very smart, smarter than me. Obviously, that's why they build all those hotels. Here's my question to you. The Mets have been favorites since the get-go for the most part. They've had the worst string of luck. They've even had DeGrom miss time. Noah Syndergaard has been shut down. Carrasco hasn't thrown a pitch this year. And there's still a consensus minus 225. Minus 225. How in the hell is that possible to win the East? The Braves are plus 280. I know they lost Ozuna. Right. And I get it. Like, the Mets are built well. They have depth. And this is the first time a Mets team has had depth. You've seen Kevin Pillar, Jonathan Villar. You've seen all these guys step up into this void. And these are real major league players for a chance and for a change. And that's something the Mets have not done a good job with historically on their bench of having. They have that. It's showing. They're still winning games despite that. But should they be these kind of prohibitive favorites right now? I mean, I'm a Mets fan. Maybe I'm just self-loathing. But to me, plus 280 on Atlanta, how do you not kind of jump in on that? I just don't get it. Do you see the Mets winning this division?
I absolutely do. And I'll tell you why. And I don't think they're as crazy. I think it's more an indictment on what the market thinks of the Phillies, the Marlins, the Nationals. Like, go down the list here. I think
we can forget the Nats. After Steven Strasburg last night, I think we can finally say, you know what? I think that's $200 million that was not well spent. I think we can move on from that. Yeah.
Yes. And I think a lot of Met fans, and you know this, how much money did you spend for Lindor? Between McCann, Lindor. But to me, the talent is there offensively. And for them going into this week, I think, going into Monday night, into Memorial Day on the 31st, to end the month of May, you're talking about a Mets team with all that injuries, and everyone's, for the last couple of weeks, who the hell is this play? How are they going to score a run? They're 5 games over 500.
It's crazy.
It's nuts. So if they're doing it, if they can sustain that when all the chips are against them and they're losing guys. Now they got Alonso back. What's he do? First game back, he's mashing the ball all over the place. Solidify the middle of that order. I still like the bullpen. Obviously, the starting pitching, the two guys at the top there between Stroman. Anybody see Walker having the kind of year he's having?
That's the guy. And I love that signing. I thought that was low-key one of the best signings of the offseason. He was very good last year for Toronto. Nobody seemed to care or notice. Yeah, and this was a player people forget was a very highly thought of prospect back in the Seattle days. It was him and Danny Hultzen. Remember, they were going to change the Seattle rotation. And here we go, all these years later, like 10 years now. There's Taijuan Walker finally putting it together. All right, before we get to AL and NL winners and World Series, I want to ask you about the West, because the Dodgers are still prohibitive favorites, minus 220. The Padres consensus number is plus 175. I know the Padres are like this volatile stock because, Tatis is so good and Machado's so great, but then they've had some guys who have been struggling. Tommy Pham just started to hit. Blake Snell's got a 5.5 ERA, but Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove have been great. It has been all over the place. You never know what you're going to get from Paddock. Is it safe to say that it's still the Dodgers, they're still the favorites, and it's probably still not the best way to make money? Or do you see the Padres maybe finding a way to somehow put all these pieces together and actually make a run here as we get to the last 2/3 of the season?
I think I think all the money, if you were going to bet in the West, would be fading the Dodgers, who I think have we knew Were they going to win 108 games, 106? I mean, what was the preseason win total?
It was around 108 or something. It was absurd. 105, 108. Yeah. It was something crazy like that.
It's not going to happen. They've had to deal with some injuries. They just get Mookie Betts back, obviously. That lineup and the names in it are starting to be more familiar, but they certainly don't have that same kind of feel that they did last year, which I think is acceptable, because now that they've won it, they've been there and done that. They understand it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. The interesting teams there, of course, I don't think anybody saw the Giants and the top end of that rotation doing what they do. I still don't like the bullpen all that much. But, between Crawford and Longoria and these guys that all of a sudden are, they're doing some pretty special things right now, getting enough run support, the ballpark that they play in. But it's the Padres to lose as far as I'm concerned here. Listen, Snell, granted, you're going to get 3 innings, the best 3 innings with only 6 walks out of him ever. It's going to be fantastic, Joe.
Well, it's funny because you look at the second, and this is where the fantasy nerd in me comes out a little bit.
Right.
You look at some of the deeper numbers and you say, well, the FIP is much better than ERA. That's going to start to marginalize a little bit. He's never been a guy who's going to, throw complete games. That's not his deal. But I'm with you. I think the Padres are dangerous, and I think it's chasing. Chasing makes you dangerous when you're the team that's chasing. When you're being chased, when you're at the top of the mountain, it takes a lot. Those teams that are great perennially, it is tough, man, because everybody's gunning for you, and the Padres are gunning for him. And I think the Padres will be aggressive and continue to add pieces.
How many people even knew, Machado wasn't playing for the last month? Most people didn't even realize he wasn't even in the lineup. And now Tatis, obviously, hopefully he'll be able to get back. But now you got Machado back in that lineup there.
They're dangerous.
They are. Wilmar, they are. Woo, good luck. And wait till Lamet gets back. Wait till they get back with that.
Let's get to the American League and National League winners here. Right now, the American League favorite is the Chicago White Sox, as they should be. They've got the rotation, they've got the offense. At some point, theoretically, they're going to get Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert back for the playoffs. Theoretically, right now, they have the bullpen, they have all the pieces, and they got a little swagger. Tim Anderson, those guys, they've got a little bit of that swag, and I think that is great. Mercedes has been terrific for them. Abreu is, coming off an MVP caliber season. I think Tony La Russa is the only thing that could be their undoing. I know that sounds crazy. I love this plus 275. The Yankees are a plus 390. The Rays are a plus 450. The Astros are a plus 750. There's only 2 wagers I like. And it's the Astros at 750, which everyone's going to hate because there's that negative energy about them that people don't want to see them. I don't care if you want to see them or not. Pitching's going to win out, and they've got pitching, and they've got depth, and they've got a chip on their shoulder also, which is kind of fun. So for me, it's the Astros and it's the White Sox. Do you see anybody else in this mix where you would want to put money on at this stage in the season, even though it's very early?
So it's interesting because we all know in the marketplace, right? 2 teams that are always going to be overinflated in the market, Yankees and the Dodgers, right? Always. So the fact that we can get the Yankees at what, plus 4, plus 400, plus 390, somewhere in that ball game. If you are of the mind that Yankees, Herman getting back into it, get back looking better and better each outing, right? At the top with Garrett Cole, the bullpen just flat out balling, just exactly what you thought. If you believe the pitching is going to maintain and the bats are going to come around, then at plus 400, plus you're going to get 4-1, I'll take the Yankees. Now, I would have never taken them prior to season, but I think much like an in-game live betting type of situation, Joe, where
it's fluid.
The Yankees, exactly, and I think the bats are going to come around. They're going to start mashing and destroying people, and then that bullpen is going to go to work where they're going to win them a lot of games late as the season moves on, and then we're all going to sit here in a couple of months and be like, how did we not choose the Yankees at 4-1?
Look, I think this is the time if you like the Yankees. Zach Britton making his rehab start just 15 minutes from my house in Somerset for the Double-A Yankees. Can't believe they're Double-A Yankees now.
Crazy.
15 minutes from my house. All right, let's go to the other side. You mentioned about the premium you pay for the Dodgers, plus 170 on them. The Padres are a plus 350. The Mets at plus 450. The Braves are never a good playoff team because they don't play well in short series. They don't match up very well. But if the Mets could get right with Carrasco, Walker, Stroman, DeGrom, At 450, to me, that's the one where, again, I still don't like them to win the division. Somehow I feel like, again, maybe I'm just tortured. But it feels like at plus 450, it's kind of like that other equivalent where you look at it and go, in a short series, this is a team that when they do get healthy, they can create runs. Whereas some teams like the Yankees, they have to hit the home runs. Right. If Lindor can start to be Lindor, and that's starting to happen a little bit, they're a very different team. And I think Jonathan Villar is going to play a lot more for this team, even when J.D. Davis comes back. So what are your thoughts here? Do you go for the Padres at 350, the Mets at 450, or the favorite, the Dodgers, or maybe somebody else?
I don't think you are going to be able to get the Padres any better than what you can get them right now. If you did not bet them preseason, right? If you are of the belief of the Dodgers, I think the team that another one of these plus 350, plus 360, somewhere in that ballpark, pitching, the top of the rotation there. I love you, Darvish, at the top there. I love the bats. I think they're going to be able to outscore anybody, even when they're not getting necessarily the best pitching. I think they're going to beat the Dodgers out in the West. And I think as the season progresses, that number is only going to get closer and closer to even money. So I think having the Padres at plus 350 right now, them and the Yankees, preseason you'd have laughed at me and said, okay. Well, I also wouldn't have been getting that price at preseason. Right.
No, that is
I think
true.
Now's the time for both.
All right. Well, now's the time to go follow Joe Raineri on Twitter at Joe Raineri. You can go check him out at WagerTalk and, of course, on SportsGrid all the time, all over that network, as he should be, because he knows what he's doing and he's fun and he's good people. He's the pride of Florida. Joe, I can't thank you enough. It's always fun. Hopefully we'll get you back on again soon, talk some more baseball. And then football is right around the corner, too. We'll get you around for that, my friend. Thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
Jojo, I appreciate it. Best of luck. Cash some tickets.
There you go. Cash away. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For one Joe, this is the other Joe. We'll see you next time, kids.